Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of an action thriller films from 2021, titled Below Zero. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The film opens in a pouring rain in the middle of the countryside. A young man named Chino is crawling on the ground, cornered by a man in a poncho. Chino begs for his life, and claims that he doesn't know where the man's daughter is. Despite his pleads, the man knocks him out with a gun, then drags him to a shallow grave where he buries him alive. On the next scene, a cop named Martin enters the police station. It is his first day at work, and he is given the important task of transferring several prisoners that night. At the station, he meets Montesinos, a fellow cop who would accompany him during the transfer. Accompanied by Montesinos, Martin goes to the city's high-security prison, where they're informed they'll be relocating 6 prisoners. One of the prisoners, Ramus, has a special lockpick hidden in his cell, and intends to bring it with him. These prisoners are rounded up, and the 2 cops perform a strip search on them to be sure they aren't hiding anything. During the search, Montesinos gets aggressive with one particular prisoner, young man named Nano, because Nano acted like a brat. Afterwards, these inmates are taken to the transfer truck, wherein each of them are put in separate cells. Most of them have their handcuffs removed except for Mihai and Ramus, who Montesinos is very wary of. Martin is stickler for the rules, meanwhile Montesinos is more ruthless with the prisoners. Seeing this, Martin scolds him for his behavior, causing the two to get into a mild argument about morality before climbing inside the vehicle. For the duration of the trip, Martin will be the one driving the truck, while Montesinos travels in the back with the prisoners. There's a camera in that area that tells Martin what's going on back there, and of course, both are equipped with walkie-talkies. As they set off, we see that the transfer vehicle is escorted by a police car, with 2 officers driving ahead of them for security. While driving down a quiet road through the woods, we see a mysterious man lines a spike strip across the road. Inside the truck, Montesinos asks Martin to turn up the heat as they request it, hoping that will help them shut up. Sometime later, one of the prisoners, Ramus, asks to go to bathroom. Montesinos, who is on guard, lets him, and temporarily removes his handcuffs. This allows Ramus to recover his lockpicking tools which he had hidden, thanks to his ass. He takes it out and returns to his cell. The further they go into the woods road, the thicker the fog becomes, and Martin can no longer see the police car. He also loses radio contact with the car. Martin tries the comms to tell police car ahead to slow down, but he doesn't hear an answer. Just as Martin starts to wonder what's going on, the truck reaches the spike strip. Being forced to stop, the prisoners begin theorizing about what happened. It could be that one of the prisoners, Mihai, had powerful friends who came to their aid. Seeing that the vehicle pulled to a stop, the curious Montesinos steps out to check things out, leaving the prisoners alone. And so, Ramus takes this opportunity to unwrap the item he had stuck up his ass, which is a string and a hook. He uses it to take off his cuffs, and unlatch door. When Montesinos doesn't return, Martin gets concerned and steps out of the truck. With his gun out, he walks down the road, and to his horror, he finds Montesinos lying dead. At that moment, the mysterious person begins shooting at him from his hiding place amid the woods, so Martin snatches Montesinos' keys and runs to take cover. He runs and hides behind the toppled-over police car, where he discovers that the 2 officers inside are dead. Martin tries shooting back until he's out of bullets, but doesn't manage to hit the sniper. He eventually dashes back to the transfer car, but not before the sniper shoots him in the thigh. Martin tries to contact headquarters to no avail, and it is now that the sniper starts shooting at the truck, breaking the windows. The truck won't start either, and Martin is forced to retreat into the back of the truck where the inmates are. He reaches for the first aid kit, and patch himself up. When the inmates demand to know what's going on out there, Martin doesn't answer. All of the sudden, they hear the sound of a drill, signifying the sniper is trying to drill his way inside, but fails to do so because the transfer vehicle is heavily armored. Ignoring all the commotion, Martin checks the CCTV feed and sees that the sniper has broken into the driver's seat. With Martin distracted, Ramus breaks out of his cell and attacks him. They get into a fist fight until Martin pulls out his gun. Martin starts questioning him, asking if the sniper outside is a friend of Ramus who's trying to break him out. Ramus denies this. At the same time, another inmate named Pardo notices that his seat is wet with gasoline. He tries informing Martin, but before long, his cell is set on fire. Up next we see the sniper pouring gasoline through the vent into another inmate's cell. Martin hurriedly takes the fire extinguisher and asks for Ramus' help to open the burning Pardo's cell. But it's too late, Pardo has burnt to death. While Martin deals with Pardo, Ramus is busy setting the other inmates free, including Ray, whose cell was starting to burn as well. Now, all the inmates are out of their cells. Outnumbered, Martin points his gun at them and threatens to shoot. But before things escalate, they are interrupted by the sniper speaking through Martin's comms. He says that Martin holds the only key to the truck, and to not be afraid because Martin is out of bullets. The sniper then promises that if the inmates open the door, he would let them walk free. Mihai the gangster is tempted by the offer, and approaches Martin. Meanwhile the cop tries to get him to reason. The sniper is not to be trusted. However, the inmates don't care, because they see this as their one chance to freedom. They attack the cop, and in the scuffle, the key falls to the floor. To avoid their attacks, Martin runs across the hall to the other side of the truck to evade the inmates, all the while they demand him to hand over the key. While this is happening, Mihai finds the key on the floor and walks to the exit, but the youngest inmate there, Nano, picks up the fire extinguisher and beats him to death with it. The action shocks everyone and get them to walk over to ask why he would do such a thing, so Nano confesses that he knows the sniper. According to him, the sniper's name is Miguel, and he was a corrupt cop who got kicked out of the police force. To add, Nano believes that they all will be safe as long as they stay inside. To counter Nano's argument, Miguel the sniper speaks through the comms again, claiming that Nano is lying and he is only here for Nano. If they hand Nano over, none of them will be harmed. Otherwise, he'd kill them all. Moreover, the sniper also boasts about killing Nano's best friend, Chino, who we saw in the beginning of the movie. Not wanting to get entangled in Nano's mess, the rest of the inmates try to fight Nano for the key again so they could hand Nano over. Unfortunately, the young inmate swallows it, and one of the enraged inmates hits him unconscious. While this happens, Miguel is seen changing the transfer truck's wheels, and cutting some cables off the car. Back inside, Nano and Martin wake up to find that the rest of the inmates have locked them inside a cell. The sniper has turned off the heater, followed by turning off the rest of the electricity. Up next, Miguel gets into the driver's seat and starts driving away. Ramus has the comms now and he uses it to communicate with the sniper. He told the sniper about Nano swallowing the key, and asks if they could kill and gut Nano, but the sniper says no, because he needs Nano alive. He doesn't care how, he just wants them to break out of the truck so he could get to Nano. Without a heater, the transfer vehicle only gets colder by the second. And without an exit, there isn't much to do but to talk, so Nano shares with Martin the cop that he and his best friend Chino grew up together, and Chino was like a brother to him. He seems despaired at the thought that the sniper might have harmed his best friend. Meanwhile, Ramus and the rest of the inmates found the hall, and takes out a toolbox. On the other side of the story, Montesino awakes with a gunshot wound to the waist, but nevertheless still alive. He radios the police station to report the situation, and climbs into the sniper's car that he stumbled upon nearby. Inside the car, he finds gun in the glove box, a series of photos of a teenage girl, and a news article detailing the missing dead body of a murdered young girl. As it turns out, the girl was the sniper's daughter who got murdered. Back inside the transfer truck, the inmates send Ray down the hall to find a possible exit point. Inside the cramped space, Ray finds a couple of screws at the end of the tunnel, and starts unscrewing them. All of the sudden, Montesino shows up with the sniper's car, and starts shooting at the transfer vehicle. Miguel the sniper rams the vehicle against the car, throwing the passengers all over the place. To avoid getting rammed, Montesino tries to get ahead, but the truck starts ramming against the car several times, until Montesino crashes into a tree. Miguel stops the vehicle, and the force causes Ray's head to hit a bolt sticking out. The sniper then steps out of the truck, and watches as Montesino bleeds to death. When he begins driving again, Ramis communicates with Miguel again through the comms, telling him that they've tried everything they could to get out, but there's simply no exit. In response, Miguel says that as the sun is rising, so this is Nano's last chance to confess. Nano still claims not to know what he's talking about, so Miguel hangs up, ignoring Martin's questions. Afterwards, Miguel drives to the middle of a frozen lake. He then steps out of the truck, and starts shooting a few holes around it. He then walks away and waits for the inevitable. The ice breaks, and the truck starts to sink. Water starts filling up inside, causing everyone inside to panic. It is only now that Martin reveals that there is a secret hatch they can exit through on the roof of the truck. Ramis tries to pick the lock to free Martin and Nano, but in the haste, the lock falls. Another inmate, Gollum, swims down the freezing water to fetch it. Luckily, they manage to open the cell, but Gollum looks pale. They prepare to swim outside, but Gollum seems unwell. He dies of hypothermia, forcing them to leave him. With barely any time left, Nano, Ramis and Martin swim to the surface. Martin the cop falls short of reaching the surface, but luckily, Ramis fishes him out of the water before he freezes to death. Meanwhile, Nano runs for his life, unaware that Miguel stands not far from the scene and is going after him. Ramis performs CPR on Martin, until the cop wakes up. After Martin recuperates, they hear gunshots in the distance, which makes Martin worry for Nano's safety. At the same time, Nano runs into a series of dilapidated buildings nearby. Being the lawful cop that he is, Martin wants to go after Nano, but Ramis the inmate doesn't. The two exchange looks, and Martin decides to let Ramis walk free for saving his life. Martin wishes him luck, and they part ways. Up next, the policeman follows the source of the gunshot, until he finds Miguel on top of an abandoned building, shooting at Nano but hasn't hit the kid yet. Before it's too late, Martin sneaks upstairs to confront him. Once they're face to face, he asks what Miguel wants out of all of this. Here is where Miguel the sniper tells a story about how his 13-year-old daughter, Soledad, went to a village festival one day, where she met Nano and Chino. They got her drunk, then repeatedly raped her, but that's not all there is. Afterwards, they put out their cigarettes on her, tied her to the back of a truck, then dragged her to death. After she died, they dumped her body somewhere, but it's never found by the police. As a grieving father, he only wants to know where the body is so he could retrieve it and bury it properly. Martin assures him that the law will justly punish Nano, but Miguel disagrees. As a former cop himself, he knows that the investigation was pointless too, because there wasn't enough proof to send the boys to jail, which has taught Miguel that the legal system doesn't work. Out in the yard, Nano starts running away, so Miguel shoots him in the leg. Martin then jumps at Miguel, and both men begin beating each other up. Martin uses a glass shard he finds on the floor to stab Miguel's hand. He gets the gun and aims it at Miguel, but the sniper slips downstairs to go after Nano. After reloading the shotgun, Martin decides to go after them. He walks in on the sight of Miguel beating Nano to pulp, all the while questioning him where his daughter's dead body is, but Nano refuses to come clean. To get him to stop, Martin shoots the shotgun up the sky, while Nano takes the opportunity to hit Miguel in the head. The three are then interrupted when a police helicopter arrives. Thinking he's safe now, Nano cockily shouts that he will never tell Miguel where he buried the girl, before smiling lewdly. Seeing this makes something snap in Martin, so he shoots Nano in the foot, pins him down, and forces him to confess where Miguel's daughter is. Nano still refuses to answer, so Martin shoots his hand off. With a very real pain, Nano finally confesses that he dumped the body inside a well in their home village, finally providing closure for Miguel. Right in time, the police squad arrives, while Miguel starts crying, overwhelmed by emotions. The movie ends with Martin leaving the police force, possibly dishonorably discharged for attacking an unarmed nano. However, despite it all, he feels content because justice is served. He helped a grieving father cope with the unjust death of his daughter.